Hey everybody, Jason Burmis here with the final part of the watch along. Now, if you've been paying attention today on the 18th anniversary of 9/11, you know that we've been going through all the chapters of Fabled Enemies, my documentary about the international intelligence operation that is 9/11. And we've only got 2 chapters left, and they involve the Anthrax attacks, which are extremely forgotten and really not talked about much at this point in not only the mainstream media, but the alternative media and in general. So with that being said, we're going to kick that off. And then during the conclusion, I'm actually going to have to shut it down every once in a while because I got a copyright claim on some of the audio. So I'm going to have to interject every once in a while when I really wish I could just play the ending for you, because I really do enjoy the ending to this film. I think that it's strong. So let's get into it. The Anthrax attacks.
After 9/11, a climate of fear was created in order to shut down any opposition to the Bush administration's new agenda. A week after 9/11, anthrax began appearing in the mail. The letters were made to look as though they were the work of Muslim extremists, claiming "Death to America" and "Allah is great."
Now, if you remember, these anthrax letters, they were written to appear to be from semi-literate Muslims. Very crude handwriting, all of this, all of that. They really do look more like movie prop letters than real letters.
The targets were government buildings, media outlets such as CBS, NBC, the New York Post, and politicians such as Senator Daschle and Leahy, 2 members of the opposition party. When the FBI tested the anthrax, it was highly refined and weaponized. Colin Powell would go on CNN and deny these allegations.
I think we've had a lot of stories over the past 4 or 5 days. First, it was weaponized anthrax, then it was highly refined, and then when it was analyzed, it was discovered it was none of the above.
The anthrax used in the attacks was identical to that of the AIM strain, which led the investigation of Fort Detrick.
An analysis of the anthrax that was sent to Senator Daschle's office shows that this anthrax has a sophistication that leads people to know that it can only be produced by a PhD microbiologist, and it would have to have been done in a small, well-equipped microbiology lab.
This appears to be the so-called AIM strain. That was a strain of anthrax that was first isolated almost 50 years ago at a U.S. Department of Agriculture diagnostic lab in Ames, Iowa. What's uncommon about this is that it has been engineered in such a way to be, as they say, readily aerosolized. That means, in effect, that what somebody has done is taken the anthrax spores, added to them some kind of a chemical to get in the way of a normal electrostatic process that causes the spores to clump together. Chemicals been added to declump them, in effect. That makes them very fine. They are able then to be dispersed very readily into the air.
The Washington Post would report, genetic fingerprinting studies indicate that the anthrax spores mailed to Capitol Hill are identical to stocks of the deadly bacteria maintained by the U.S. Army since 1980. Those labs can trace back their samples to a single military source, the U.S. Army Medical Research Institute of Infectious Diseases at Fort Detrick, Maryland.
So all things pointed to this being a refined U.S. military strain that was associated with the 9/11 attacks, and it's almost never, ever talked about.
It's been made quite clear that Al-Qaeda wasn't behind this. It is a specialized biological weapon only produced by our military in one facility. High-level FBI and CIA officials said none of the 60 to 80 daily threat reports from intelligence sources contain evidence linking the anthrax attacks to Osama bin Laden's terrorist network. This did not stop the mainstream press from trying to blame Al-Qaeda.
As investigators race to find answers to the recent wave of anthrax terror, we'll look at what investigators are targeting now.
Since September 11th, Americans have been put on alert.
This is so terrible.
Investigators are trying to ward off more attacks,
by dissecting the terrorist plan for September 11th, looking for patterns, methods, associates that could reveal what else terrorists had in mind.
It was not something smuggled in from Iraq. It was not something smuggled in from any Middle Eastern country. It was U.S. government ultrafine granulated weaponized anthrax spores. There was another story that the media absolutely would not touch, the story of Dr. Philip Zack. And it goes back to the U.S. government lab where the anthrax was stored. It was reported that official U.S. government documents in the anthrax investigation showed that Dr. Zack had entered the laboratory where the anthrax used in the letters was kept without proper authorization after having lost his job.
Somehow the Bush administration would have the foresight to be on Cipro 6 weeks prior to the attacks.
Wait a minute. So before the attacks, and you didn't know the 9/11 attacks were going to come, and then you tried to blame, the anthrax attacks on this same network, and they had these little 9/11-01 letters, death to America, death to Israel, but you somehow knew to be on Cipro 6 weeks before the anthrax attacks happened.
How convenient. An attack traced back to U.S. government facilities, and the president and his staff happen to be taking the antidote before it's even in the mail. Judicial Watch would file suit against the administration for its actions.
Well, this is another good example of how certain people consider themselves to be above the rest of us. On September 11th, I think it'll come as a shock to a lot of people, but it's been reported by the New York Times and other major news organizations and confirmed by the White House. The President's office and Vice President's office went on Cipro, the antibiotic that was used to combat anthrax. The White House went on Cipro. It must have known that either an attack was underway or was imminent. It shows you that some people in this country are less than equal and are not treated like the political elites.
And so this is it. I wish I could play this start to finish for you, but even like right now, the audio in the background is going to hurt me.
9/11 was an international intelligence operation that included role players within our own government, as well as in the governments of Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, and Israel.
So there you are. Those are some big players right there in this film, which you can watch in full on this channel. Make sure to thumbs this up, share it, and if you're not a member of the Burmese Brigade, comes with one. If you watch these videos today, go over in detail the Israeli, Saudi Arabian, and Pakistani roles in 9/11.
Each played a compartmentalized role in order to create a climate of fear and confusion.
We're just going to have to pause it there. Again, we don't want that copyright strike.
This, combined with the evacuation of government offices, kept any type of dissent off the radar.
And remember, a lot of the agents and administrators that would have been on the East Coast where the attacks occurred were across the country in either California or Montana.
It was a time when Americans felt they needed to rally around their leaders, and they did.
I can hear you! And the people who knock these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
And here comes the charge. Ah! And the war on terror continues 18 years later.
God bless America! USA! 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 USA!
The power structure used that unity to pass nightmarish legislation, beginning with the Patriot Act, which was written before 9/11.
Remember, something they had waiting in the wings that has eviscerated our freedoms in this country and snowballed into why I just did an Assange live stream with people that are really bringing his issues to the forefront, because we've digressed big time. This war on terror is just ever growing, and our freedoms at home, they just get plucked away one by one incrementally.
Homeland Security was in place prior to 9/11 as well.
Another piece of this, which is something that has been well known to you all, is that The creation of the Office of Homeland Security was something that was planned even before September 11th.
So they had all this stuff waiting in the wings. They already had the Patriot Act on ice. They had Homeland Security coming into fruition. They needed to clamp down tighter, and they have.
The Bush administration had even written up the plans to invade Afghanistan the week before 9/11.
And as a result of a process that involved the CIA, the Department of Defense, the Department of State, the National Security Council, a national security presidential directive was developed and prepared throughout 2001 that was approved by what's called the Principals Committee, which is essentially cabinet-level officers involved in national security, on September 4th, 2001. That document was then finalized on September 10th. I think it was focused on al-Qaeda from the various earlier days.
Oh, it was focused on al-Qaeda from the various earliest days, right before 9/11 on September 10th. Okay.
We fight a fabled enemy, the likes of which that can never be defeated.
The terrorists attacked us and killed 3,000 of our citizens before we started the freedom agenda in the Middle East.
Freedom agenda?
What did Iraq have to do with what?
The attack on the World Trade Center.
Nothing.
Yeah, nothing. Iraq had nothing to do with the attack on World Trade Center. That's right.
While an international intelligence cartel wages psychological warfare against we the people on behalf of the global elite.
And remember, this is a government that over the years has proven that it can be trusted with these powers.
You'd hope, as you mentioned before, that people don't complain about these extra inconveniences because they are simply being put into effect to protect all of us.
They masquerade as our saviors, while the media glorifies and indemnifies them.
Either you are with us, or you are with the terrorists.
I mean, come on. I mean, this guy gets me. He's got the American flag hat on.
Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Certainly not a disingenuous filmmaker who would have us believe.
John McCain, establishment man. Meghan McCain, establishment woman, attacking Julian Assange as a cyber terrorist. Thank you so much, Unprop, for the super chat. I really do appreciate it. Monsters among us.
The time has come not for a revolution, but a restoration of our Constitution.
Our Bill of Rights.
Our Bill of Rights. But most of all, our morality as a people. The question is, will we be able to put our consumerist obsessions aside long enough to make a difference? Can we put down the remote control and hold these tyrants accountable? It's up to us. No more excuses.
Thank you. By the way, that guy right there saying thank you, that man was labeled a serial pedophile by a judge. That's Dennis Hassert right there. Okay?
This is wild.
Through the night with the light from above, from the mountains, to the prairies, to the ocean.
What's that? Can't be throwing no pictures. Okay, it's NBC News. You understand? It's NBC News. I don't care who it is.
America, my home.
Don't taste me, bro. Don't taste me. I didn't do anything.
America, my home, sweet home.
So there it is. That's Fabled Enemies, and I do want to thank Alex Jones for helping me produce that back in the day. Will you do a live chat with High Impact Flicks? I don't know. Does he want to do a live chat with me? I've never been contacted by him. I will say this, that, again, if you want to watch the whole thing, it's right here in my documentary section. Got all these playlists. We're doing 3 to 7 videos a day. I thought that this was a pretty intelligent thing to do. Thank you, Brendan. I really appreciate it. To do for the 18th anniversary, because I think there's a lot of points to be made and a lot of things that still need to be said out there. So that being said, guys, if you want to support me other than thumbing this video up, sharing it, joining the Burmese Brigade, I got to GoFundMe, $5, $10, $15. It means the world. That's how I'm able to do this 7 days a week and talk about subjects that matter. And I just want to say thank you all for that support that you've given me, whether it be financial or not, because it's always about right and wrong. It's never about left and right and bullshit partisan politics. So thanks again, and I'll see you all on the flip side.